Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us. So I'm Heather Dukeshire. My pronouns are they and them. I'm here representing the Office of Cannabis Management's Division of Social Equity. So we're here today to talk about the CanRenew Community Restoration Grant and the RFP that will be released for fiscal year 2026. So a couple of housekeeping items. So we have turned off chat, mic, and camera for all attendees. You can use the Q&A to ask questions. However, because the RFP has not yet been released, we will not be answering those questions today. Rather, those questions will be answered in the RFP itself or in the frequently asked questions section of our website after that RFP has been released. Okay. All right, if we go to the next slide. All right, so just a little bit about OCM, if you are unfamiliar. So OCM was established to promote public health, safety, and welfare as we are developing the legal cannabis industry in the state of Minnesota. Also to eliminate the illicit market and meet consumer demand, foster a sustainable craft cannabis industry, and prioritize growth in communities impacted by cannabis prohibition. And this is really where CanRenew comes in as we look at how we are doing that, because that is the purpose of CanRenew. And so if we can go to the next slide, OCM's Division of Social Equity is one of the divisions within OCM, and the role of the Division of Social Equity is to promote development, stability, and safety in communities that have experienced a disproportionate negative impact from cannabis prohibition and usage. And so our grants, including the CanRenew Community Restoration Grant, is managed within this Division of Social Equity, which is within OCM. If we'll go to the next slide, we'll talk a little bit about what the Division of Social Equity does. So we have a small but mighty team of about 6-7 folks. And so we engage with and represent the community. We administer grants, which includes CanRenew, which we're talking about today, as well as the CanGrow farmer training and farmer loan grants. Additionally, we investigate and resolve complaints, review and approve licensing transfers for social equity classified businesses, review petitions for disqualifying offense variances, report to OCM leadership on the status of complaints and social equity in the cannabis industry, as well as to report to the legislature about the grants and what good that they are doing in the community. So I mentioned social equity applicants. And so for folks that are not super familiar with what that is really crucial to what we'll see within the CanRenew RFP. So we're going to take a moment to talk a little bit about what that is. And so what we're talking about is individuals who are adversely affected by previous cannabis enforcement. So that includes residents of heavily policed communities, individuals or their relatives who have faced cannabis-related legal actions, military service members affected by cannabis-related infractions, as well as residents of low-income areas with a long-term presence of over 5 years. So if you are a policy nerd like I am and you want to take a look at what exactly is that language that's in the statutes, we have a nifty QR code there for you. And you can look up all the exact language that is there. All right, so having discussed who is OCM, what is the Division of Social Equity, we're going to move into talking specifically about CanRenew. But I need to start with a little disclaimer. So all of this information that I'm going to provide today is for informational purposes only and is not final. So we are continuing to work on and make the RFP ready for release in the very near future. And so it is subject to change because it has not yet been released. And so cannot consider any statements in this session as definitive guidance. So we would really strongly encourage you to, when it comes out, look at the RFP and the materials there. We will also be holding 3 technical assistance sessions where we will be able to respond to your questions and provide definitive guidance. We will also be putting recordings of the TA session on our website, as well as frequently asked questions. So this is for you. This is a little teaser, a little amuse-bouche for the CanRenew RFP. All right. So CanRenew, what is it? So the CanRenew Community Restoration Grants are competitive grants that are awarded to organizations who are investing in communities with residents who qualify as social equity applicants. So we talked just a little bit ago about what is that social equity applicant. And so some of the reasons that somebody might qualify as a social equity applicant is because they are in a geographic community that has heavy policing or low income and other economic challenges, right? So we are looking to strengthen those communities. And so those grant projects, they don't need to relate to cannabis specifically. They do need to relate to those geographic communities with residents who would qualify as social equity applicants. Okay. So one of the big questions when we have an RFP is like, how much money are you going to give away? And Amina, if you could click again, we are giving away $10.9 million this year. So that's quite a bit of money, and we are really excited to be able to provide this for our communities across Minnesota to be able to make those reinvestments. And this year we are doing it through a couple of tiers. So we want to recognize that sometimes the disinvestment in communities means that organizations might not have had a lot of experience with government grants and all the things that are involved in administering a government grant. So we are offering 2 tiers of funding. So our tier 1 is for grants between $2,500 and $10,000. So this has lower barriers to entry that will allow organizations who are newer to state funding to gain experience in administering grants. And then we also have a tier 2, which is $50,000 to $2 million. And so with this, we have an enhanced level of risk assessment and monitoring as is required by Minnesota statute. And so organizations awarded in tier 2 will have the ability to implement larger projects. Okay, and these are both going to be part of the same RFP. And Amina, we can move to the next slide. All right, so these funds that we mentioned on the previous slide with those funding amounts, these projects are for a 12-month project. So we are looking at starting around June 30th of 2026 and going through June 30th of 2027. So any projects will need to be taking place during that time period. All right. And we are required per statute to give competitive priority to organizations that have community support for the proposed investment, right? That is not just your organization that is going to benefit from this, but that this is something, a change, an investment that is wanted by the community. So understanding and involving youth, civic engagement or leadership, and or support of youth-led health education opportunities. So how can we involve youth in this work and really make impacts on future generations? Looking at organizations that have a history of successful community investments, especially in these eligible communities. Also looking at a focus on restorative or transformative justice. So how do we not just address harms, but how do we make things better for the community? And also looking at partnerships between organizations. So we have a lot of good people doing good work in different organizations, and how can they come together and really multiply all of those benefits by coming together. Okay, next slide. So wanted to offer a couple of definitions that are big in this RFP. So this is a community reinvestment grant. So with that, any projects or programs that improve community life. So this can include economic development, health improvement projects, violence prevention, youth programs, legal aid, or any other kind of project that really enables reinvestment in communities. And they do not have to relate to cannabis. A lot of folks, they talk to us, they're like, we don't do anything with cannabis, but that's not required. So with the next definition, looking at eligible communities. So when we're talking about an eligible community, if you can click Amina, we are talking about a geographic community where residents qualify as social equity applicants, or SEAs. And then eligible organizations are any group that invests in these SEA communities, which would include nonprofits, federally recognized tribes, educational institutions, local governments, private businesses, community groups, or partnerships between different types of organizations. This is really open to a large variety of kinds of organizations, with the main focus being on doing that work that is going to repair the harm caused by cannabis prohibition, and recognizing that what is the harm that has been caused for this specific community, and how are we going to repair that harm through a variety of different ways, whether that is economic development, etc. Speaking of that, we'll go to the next slide. So just some examples of kinds of projects that could fit into this. So depending on what is the harm that was caused in the community that you are serving. So we can do things around economic development. So that could include things like local business workshops or job training programs. It could be resources to prevent or respond to homelessness or address any other housing needs. Could include things like community gardening or energy efficiency upgrades, microfinance. We look at violence prevention, right? We could be talking about school-based anti-bullying programs or early childhood home visitation, support services for survivors of violence, restorative or transformative justice programs, or other community-based violence prevention projects. When we think about civil legal aid, we are thinking about free legal clinics, maybe tenant rights education, pro bono legal services, expungement assistance, or partnerships with local local law schools who would be able to support doing those sorts of civil legal aid. When we think about improving social determinants of health, again, this is like another place where housing could come in with social determinants, as well as nutrition education programs. Various ways that we can improve access to healthcare services, including transportation solutions. Also thinking about partnerships with local food banks, right? How do we make sure that people are staying fed? So with youth development, thinking about mentoring programs, leadership training, volunteer and service projects, any arts and culture activities, or youth councils and clubs, right? So what we see here is a really broad variety of kinds of projects that could be good investments for CanRenew. Again, regardless of what kind of project it is, the main thing is that it is working to repair harm in eligible communities. Okay. So we are expecting to launch this before the end of the year. So make sure you're keeping an eye out for that, because we can't tell you the date yet, as we are continuing to work on this. So the best way to make sure that you know when it has launched is to sign up for the OCM mailing list. So if you go to our website, which you can go to using this QR code, if you don't already have it like bookmarked as your like homepage or anything like that, scroll down to the very bottom and you'll see a little thing that says subscribe for email updates. And it's even going to ask, what kinds of updates do you want? You probably want grants updates. So that way you will be alerted when this comes out. And then you will be able to find the RFP, the application materials, the link for an online submission, as well as our technical assistance session schedule on our website, as well as various frequently asked questions that we get from applicants and potential applicants about a variety of things to help folks to understand the RFP and the grant program and how they can best participate and support that work. Speaking of ways that you can support the work, you might recognize as you look at the RFP, or even as we're talking now, you're like, now is not a good time for me to be applying for this program, but I really care about making sure that these funds are going to create positive change. Part of doing grant making is having folks who are willing and able to become reviewers of our grant applications. So we would really like having folks who are from these eligible communities or folks who have experience in the areas that that we're funding, right? As we just talked about, looking at folks who have a variety of experiences, not just folks who work for the state like me. And so reviewers are going to, as this goes into effect, will engage in a short online orientation. You're going to share any conflicts of interest you might have. And then being able to review the RFP, other documents, and then going in and scoring proposals, including their narratives, work plans, and budgets, and then participating in a video remote committee review meeting. So as I mentioned, we're looking for reviewers, particularly with relevant lived experience and expertise in areas like agriculture, public health, or community development. There's no need to have prior grant review experience. And so state of Minnesota employees, you are definitely eligible and welcome to become reviewers. You will not be eligible for the stipends that we provide for community reviewers. All of these tasks can be completed remotely, and you would review between 8 to 10 applications, participate in a 2-hour discussion. And that stipend, we don't know yet what that amount will be, but all community reviewers will be eligible to receive a predetermined stipend. So that is a little bit about being a reviewer. And so we really hope that if you are not going to be submitting an application, that you will sign up to become a reviewer. So again, we have a lovely QR code that'll take you directly to our sign up form. Another plug that I'm going to throw out there, because not only is the CanRenew RFP coming up, the CanGrow RFP is also. And so CanGrow includes 2 different types of grants. There's the CanGrow Farmer Loan Grant, which helps provide loans to help farmers enter the legal cannabis industry, as well as a farmer training grant that provides technical assistance services and resources that are relevant to assisting those farmers in understanding and navigating the regulatory structure of the legal cannabis industry. So as the industry is really getting started, being able to provide farmers with those necessary resources is really important. So maybe you're here and you're like, CanRenew is not for me, but CanGrow, that sounds really interesting. There will also an info session coming up, I believe, next week that will share a little bit more information about the Can Grow opportunity coming up. And that will also go out in the email updates if you sign up for those on our website. All right. That is all the information that I have to share with you right now. Besides to really thank you for taking time out of your busy days to learn a little bit more about this grant. I hope to see you in the future at our technical assistance sessions. Always feel free to reach out to us at our email, ocm.grants@state.mn.us, with any questions. And we will do our best to respond in a very timely manner and in a helpful way. And just checking if my colleagues have anything else that I neglected to mention, they can feel free to join in.
Great job, Heather. Just a reminder for folks, if you did have any questions today, you can include them in the Q&A section of this meeting. We won't be able to address them today, like Heather had mentioned at the beginning, due to the RFP not being released, but they will be addressed in the completed RFP, or you can find them on our website in the grant FAQ section.
Thank you, Tom. And big shout out to Amina for jumping in to handle the slides, since I am on a one monitor situation right now. So thank you again, and I hope you all have a great rest of your day.